Greetings, the Astro 30 here yet again, and welcome back to AEL. Now, if you're new to this channel, please consider going down below and subscribing if you haven't done so already. Cheers! Today, I want to investigate an issue that I'm facing with this Wanptek power supply, that when I'm powering breadboarded audio circuits, there seems to be a 1 kHz pilot signal being injected into the circuit from somewhere. So, is it coming from the power supply, or is it a combination of the breadboard and the power supply? So I don't know if you can hear it, but there is circuit noise there, but if you listen closely, you may be able to hear a 1 kHz signal there. Now, there's no oscillator or anything connected to the breadboard circuitry here. And this is the quasi-complementary 5-watt power amplifier and a preamp ahead of it, and I was doing some tests with something else here. But yeah, I want to find out where that signal's coming from. So I'm going to connect my oscilloscope probe directly at the supply input, like so. And with the oscilloscope at its maximum input sensitivity, so we're at 100 millivolts per division, we can see that the frequency is jumping around and coming up to 1 kHz and a little over. So that is indicating to me that it is coming off the power supply. However, is it the breadboard that's doing it in conjunction with the power supply? So I'm going to disconnect the power amp's power supply, just so we're not drawing so much current, and it's still jumping around to the 1 kHz mark. I mean, we can't see much on the scope because it's mostly noise, but the other night when I was testing this, I did actually see like what looked like a 1 kHz waveform. But it's not doing it now, which is kind of annoying, but we can actually see that the frequency is jumping around. So for testing purposes, I'm going to turn the power supply off. I'm going to disconnect my oscilloscope if I can now. It's jammed in there. Great. Alright, I'll disconnect the ground first. Geez, I'm having problems with clips today. Disconnect the breadboard, and if I can get this to unclip, thank you, I will take the tip of the probe off. I will connect the probe directly to the power supply's output, and well, with the scope we can see it's still jumping around at 1 kHz. So that's with the power supply off. I turn it on, well, it's not really definitive. Okay, I've got the power supply now hooked up to the power amplifier, which is working, and there's no noise. That 1 kHz pilot signal is not there, which is interesting. So I'll hook my scope up across the power supply, and as we can see, we're just picking up random noise, which is probably most likely coming from the scope probe itself. So this is not really definitive. So what's going on here? Well, I don't know. It seems to be only on this breadboard itself, like when I'm testing on this power supply breadboarded circuits. So when it's on a properly laid out PCB like that power amplifier, well, there's no noise. So yeah, I'm at a loss as to what's going on here. Maybe the breadboard itself is capacitively coupling, due to stray capacitance and stuff through, the breadboard connections, onto the power supply's output MOSFET. And I'm assuming it's an output MOSFET because, well, that's what you'd normally use. That's being switched on and off to control the output load on and off, together with maybe extra stray inductance and whatever, forming a tank circuit, which is then injecting 1 kilohertz onto the rest of the circuit? I don't know. But the linear power supply in the background there doesn't do that. And I can actually confirm that. I'll hook up everything on the linear supply at 24 volts to all the rest of this circuitry, and we'll just see if there's that 1 kilohertz strange pilot signal there. Alright, the linear supply is hooked up, and there's a lot less circuit noise now, actually, surprisingly. Apart from the circuit noise, there is no 1 kilohertz pilot signal there. And just for shits and giggles, I will measure with the oscilloscope across the supply. If I can get it on there. Which has increased our circuit noise, but whatever. Bugger all. It's doing the same thing, so yeah. Well, doing these tests was kind of a waste of time because it didn't actually prove anything, but all I know is that the Wanptek power supply seems to function okay directly connected to the power amp, but it's only when it's connected to the breadboard with an audio circuit that it's producing that weird 1 kilohertz signal. So I don't know. As I say, maybe it's being induced into the circuit because of the stray capacitance of the breadboard, the wiring, maybe some stray inductance forming a tank circuit, which is then producing a 1 kilohertz pilot signal into the rest of the circuit because it's acting as an oscillator. I don't know. Breadboard's okay for experimentation purposes, for getting circuits to work, seeing if they do work, etc. But it's not for permanent circuits with reliable operation. That's not what it's designed for. But I've tested the power supply, and I don't think it's actually a fault with the power supply. The only way I'm going to figure that out is to get another one of them, do the tests again, and see if that 1 kilohertz mysterious signal is injected onto the circuit. And if it is, well, it's not a electronic fault with the power supply itself. It may be an inherent design fault, however. So at this stage, who knows? Leave your thoughts below. In my opinion, I think it's just basically the breadboard capacitively coupling to the power supply causing the issue. So, but anyway, I've been the Astro 30. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to go down below, like, comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as always, this is the Astro 30 saying see ya, have a great day. I'll eventually get to the bottom of this.